What happens when you take a gorgeous 3D embossing folder like this one and add in dyes, inks, and maybe a little stitching? A card making inspiration frenzy. Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Hashik and I absolutely love this Norwegian Rosemaling 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. I am of Norwegian descent and I love the design and the larger size too. You can choose to make a 5x7 like this one or a smaller card, of course. Just look at that 3D dimension in that card. It is just amazing, even just on a white background. This embossing folder is from the Winter's Grace Garden release at Spellbinders from Susan Tierney-Cockburn, and so are these black alder flowers and this glass vase on this card. So just embossing this folder in white cardstock alone or with some dies makes a lovely card, and it continued to inspire me and inspire me. On this one I added white ink to teal cardstock and then teal ink to white cardstock, and I put the positive and the negatives together, and I also punched out some butterflies from that embossed background, and this flower was just cut from this out of a mirror card with a little ink, and my second card was done. I also cut out a blue vase from that mirror card and then I embossed it. So this is mirror card embossed to make a really unique vase, and then the flowers were cut out from a set from Susan Tierney-Cockburn called Paper Whites with a Glass Vase. Now I don't know if you can see that on the background, but there's a very subtle embossing on there rather than the very 3D of using the embossing folder itself. I ran it through again through the die cut machine, so there's a very subtle hint of embossing on the background. So that's another way to use that. Here are those two die sets I mentioned, the black alder and the paper whites and the glass vase, and those are brand new from Spellbinders. I also had this new die from Spellbinders. It's called Stitched Starfilled Background, and it occurred to me that maybe I could combine some stitching with the embossing from that embossing folder, and I do like how it turned out. I just did stitching where the embossing wasn't, and I used gold ink to highlight the embossing on that. So one more idea. This one I did the stitched background, but I didn't do any stitching, so you just see the holes, and then I also embossed, and I added brushed a little blue ink across the embossing on the background. So that's a real unique way to get different kinds of texture and patterns on there. I also embossed this vase. This is vellum, and I embossed it with that same embossing folder, so you have texture there. And then these were just cut out of the pattern on that embossing folder. So we have like leaves that are embossed, and then I added a little ink and then added a couple extra greens there. So again, I was just filled with inspiration. Here's one more. I don't know if you can tell, I obviously did some stitching on there, and there is embossing on there as well. So had lots of fun. I did all these cards in a day, and I could have done more with the same 3D embossing folder once you had inks, dyes, and stitching. I'm going to show you how beautiful that Norwegian Rosemaling embossing folder embosses. I'm going to make a gatefold card, and this is going to be the front, and I thought that it would be fun to, I have this stitched high die that I'm not going to stitch, but I'm going to glue it on and then emboss it all and see how that looks. So I have a piece here that's going to be the front of the gatefold, and I have die cut that high, which has the holes again for stitching, but I'm not going to. I'm going to have these lay flat, and then I am going to emboss the whole piece. At least that's what I think is going to work. So I have high. These colors kind of reminded me of Rosemaling. I will be honest, I am Norwegian and I know exactly what they're talking about when they say that word, but I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I had to look it up. But I do love that look, and it often uses the soft blues and a little red. I decided that I'm going to use the flower to be the dot on the eye. And put a leaf there as well. And all of these again were designed to be stitched, but obviously can be used not stitched. I thought I left a little, there we go. I love my Spellbinders Platinum when it comes to embossing. The instructions are right on the platform, and for a 3D it says to use the platform base, the 3D embossing folder, and the adapter plate. So I never have to think about what is the perfect sandwich. I am going to emboss also a piece of cardstock that I am going to cut in half for the gatefold card. I need to stand up, I think, to see how 3D that pattern is. It's just beautiful. And then I'm also going to emboss this high. Let's see if we can figure out where it would be pretty. And that is also totally embossed. You have the letters picking up the embossing and the flower and then the background. So I have a piece of cardstock here, and it is 12 by 5. So I'm planning on this to fit into a 5 by 7 envelope. So I want a gatefold. So I'm going to score at 3 and at 3. And get that other side to line up. Now this piece is 4 3/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to cut it at 2 3/4. And these embossed pieces are going to go on here. I think that embossing is just beautiful, just leaving it just like that. But of course I do like to add a little color and a fun fold there. While those set up, I will put the inside piece on. It's 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. It's nice with the liquid glue to have a little time to maneuver that around. Then I have a piece of that blue cardstock. This piece is 4 1/2 by 4, and this piece here is 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. Of course, those measurements are arbitrary. You could pick any you know, size or oval or square or whatever you might like, but I was trying to get the embossing to show here, here, and here, and continue through that front. So I will glue this on to the blue piece. I am using my favorite Bearly Art glue. I find myself reaching for this all the time, especially when you want a little time to be able to maneuver and get a perfect border on all 4 sides. I am going to add 2-sided score tape to just one side of this. so this half can have tape on, but you don't want it to be past the center. So that lined up. So you can see that gorgeous embossing on the background of that, and it does continue through the high and the flower, and then when you open it up you can see more of that gorgeous embossing, and then a place to sign the card in the center. I just think that 3D Rosemaling pattern is just beautiful, and I hope my cards encourage you to give some of the ideas and products a try.